Ladies and gentlemen, episode 5. It's your boy Icon with a little DC TV. And Happy New Year, one and all, as we celebrate 2023. And we're kicking this off with the Doom Patrol, because it's the only show that's actually still going right now, because we're still waiting for Titans. And we're about to hit the mid-season finale for the Doom Patrol, I believe, because this is episode 5. So once we reach episode 6, then I think that's when Doom Patrol will take their quote-unquote mid-season break, and then Titans will come back, and then we can finish the second half of Titans. But again, Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm glad to be back doing this DC coverage for you all. So, in this particular episode, the episode is actually called Youth Patrol. So with an episode entitled Youth Patrol, it's only natural that we start the episode off with Jane touching herself after she gets high. And then while touching herself after getting high, she ends up in the underground. And she thought that the other personas had pulled her into the underground, but then they were just like, bitch, what you talking about? She was like, nobody brought you down here. Because the thing with Jane, and they did talk about this when she got high later on in the episode, like, out of all the different personalities that Kay had created for herself, Jane was late to the party. She was the last persona that was created. So Jane's persona wasn't around when Kay was a teenager and when Kay, was doing all the stuff, that, because all the other personalities, they got to experience the teenage thing. Like, Jane never got that. So she was kind of like, like out of the mix, whatever. So she's missing a lot of things. So like, things that teenagers go through, like coming into their sexuality, like touching themselves, to see what pops up. Like Jane missed all that. So she's in this mode now where she's trying to like relive things that that she kind of missed, and then when she thought the other personas were judging her based on what she was doing, she was just like, look, it's totally normal and blah blah blah. But then she got some stuff she got to figure out. So now, and then we remember Rita, because in the last episode Rita had gotten her immortality sucked away. We actually found that out because she was still knocked out, she was asleep. Victor was guarding her by the door, just to see when she wakes up. Larry ended up leaving because he had to go find Key. And then when Rita finally woke up, because we were in the middle of another tragedy, that Willoughby had brought to the table, nobody, like, we spent the whole thing like, oh my God, when's Rita gonna wake up? When's Rita waking up? And then when Rita woke up, like, nobody cared because we were too busy worried about the next problem. Willoughby, who eventually did show up, he ended up telling everybody that Immortus is basically going after the Doom Patrol's like immortality powers minus Madame Rouge and minus Cyborg, because they said that this is something that's known as the Immortus Project, and the Immortus Project is the Doom Patrol. It's the name of the project that Niles Coulter came up with, in which he was trying to get immortality for himself so he can be around for his daughter. And they said that the jewel, the necklace that Niles had around his neck that is now in the possession of Dorothy, they said that he cut little pieces off of it and used them in his experiments, which is why the Doom Patrol is, because Rita is like 106 or 7 years old. Like Jane's probably like 89, 90, like, Cliff's like in his 90s, whatever. Like they're all old, like they're all old, but because of the little immortality chip that, crystal chip that was placed into their experiments, that's why they're still alive. And Immortus, apparently he's coming after the immortality because he wants the necklace. But the crazy thing is he wants to get like their piece of immortality so he can make the necklace whole again. But the necklace is currently around the neck of Dorothy, and we haven't figured that out yet. So in that first episode, that last episode, we ended up taking Rita's immortality. So now she's getting old, and because she's getting old, she freaking out because this is Rita. So she don't know what to do, and then she's just like, oh, I must get back my youth or whatever. So she goes into Niles' like secret stash, and she finds like an experimental like youth serum, and then that's when like Willoughby, Cyborg, the rest of the Doom Patrol, they go in the room, they were talking to Rita, and then Rita had accidentally dropped the vial, and then when she dropped the vial and the smoke came and like filled up the room, everybody in the room got affected by it, and they got hit with that experimental like youth serum. And Willoughby told them it's actually a de-aging serum, which means that they're going to eventually go from who they are to being like younger adults, to being teenagers, to being children, being toddlers, and then they're going to basically turn back into an egg or or sperm, whichever comes first, no pun intended, and then they'll cease to exist. So now they're freaking out, everybody mad at Rita because Rita fucked that up. There was like this one particular person, I think he was like Willoughby's like mentor or something. They were on their way to go see that person so that person can reverse the spell and turn them back to normal. While they're on their way to go see that person, they bump into some teenagers who convince them to go to a party. While they're at the party, like Willoughby gets high, Jane gets high and starts seeing magic stars. Cyborg ended up jumping in the pool. Like Cliff was having a good time. Cliff was the only person who he didn't really like de-age the way the rest of them did. But I guess his brain ended up de-aging because he got really like whiny towards the end where he was just like, nobody listens to me and nobody asked me, am I doing okay? Then he got mad and he left. Cyborg, he was talking to Jane. Jay gave him, some good old fashioned, advice to, regarding his situation. And then, cause he was talking to her about how he felt some kind of way about, leaving his friends behind and everything. And then, that's when Jane told him, she was just like, well, listen, if there's a friendship like that, that you feel a connection to, you got to go chase that feeling and don't let it go. And then this fool goes and talks to his friends while he's in the process of being de-aged. And I'm just like, why are we going back to the friend thing? Like the whole thing, like I thought we were done with Cyborg and his like get along gang of like friends. Cause like I was not happy with them. I thought his friends were like really stupid and I'm upset that we're actually going back to this. I thought we let that shit die like where it was. So he leaves the party. Jane's still at the party. Willoughby's at the party. And now they've de-aged. And it's cool because when Jane de-aged, because we always see when Jane goes into the underground or whenever personas take turns using the body, we always see Kay in the underground. Kay is the actual girl, the actual, body, the actual persona that this body belongs to where all 65 of these people live. But we always see Kay in the underground, but because of the de-aging spell, it actually de-aged her back into Kay when Kay was a teenager, which gave the actress who plays Kay a chance to actually interact with the Doom Patrol. And I thought that was really cool for the actor to give her that opportunity to interact with the rest of the cast. And she got the Jane mannerisms down very well too, so she's been studying her since day one. So that was cool. So Willoughby turned back into a cheerleader. Willoughby turned back into a teenager. Jane turned into a teenager. Cyborg turned back into a teenager. There was this whole thing with Madame Rouge and like Rita. They were both like, they were in a bathroom talking about their history, and then Rita turned back into a teenager. And then Madame Rouge said that the gas actually did affect her because throughout the whole episode, Madame Rouge was the only person that still looked like Madame Rouge. But she said that the gas did affect her, but because she's a shapeshifter, she basically used her power to keep herself looking the way she looked because she said her being a teenager wasn't the best time in the world for her. And then her and Rita got into a conversation about how they betrayed each other and they missed each other and they missed their friendship and it'll never be the same again. And then Madame Rouge turned into a teenager and they both hugged and cried on the bench. And I'm like, why is no one trying to turn themselves back to normal? Like, I thought we were trying to turn ourselves back to normal. We've completely abandoned turning ourselves back to normal. So the two of them, they're crying on a bench together, like embracing each other. Like Jane and Willoughby, like they're standing out by the pool. Cyborg went to his friend's house and knocked on his friend's door. And he was just like, hey man, and gave him a hug. And he's like 12. So I'm like, that whole thing was weird. And then in the end of the episode, like towards the end of the episode, when Jane realized that, Cliff wasn't going to come with her, that's when Willoughby's like wizarding table, like the wizards that are being run by the magical rabbit, they showed up. And then the rabbit told Willoughby, he was like, I'm going to have to bail you out of the jam and turn you back to normal. And then he used his power to reverse the spell to turn Willoughby back to normal. And then when he went over to Jane, he reversed the spell on Jane. But before he reversed the spell on Jane, the rabbit removed Jane's immortality, because we saw that in previous episodes, especially like with the Rita episode, there are different people who are like charged with the task of like they're working for Immortus and they're doing Immortus's bidding to try to steal the immortality of the Doom Patrol. So the rabbit, I guess, whatever Immortus is telling the rabbit to do, the rabbit was tasked with taking Jane's immortality. So we've lost Rita's immortality, we've lost Jane's immortality, and was that it? I feel like there was somebody else. Like, I feel like we're missing somebody, but but their immortality's gone so far. So like I said, I guess we're coming for Larry next. Like, I don't know if Larry still has his immortality, so we'll see what happens. But then, and even Willoughby seemed like he knew what was going on, because he told the rabbit, he was like, oh, just reverse the spell and to be done with it. And he was like, shut up, fool, I'll take what I want. And then that's when he took her immortality. So Jane's fucked. And that's pretty much like how the episode ended. Larry and the guy who was with Larry, he was like called like 104, patient 104, because they both served in the bureaucracy of normalcy or whatever. He was on The Flash, and I think he was on The Flash season 7. and he played the villain on season 7 of The Flash. He was the goo guy whose mom died of cancer, and then he was like, oh, my mom was weak because she gave up, and then he tried to like, cure ALS or some shit, and then he was the villain of that season of The Flash. So I was like, I recognized him from that. But him and Larry basically like saw into each other's memories, into each other's time at the bureaucracy, the Bureau of Normalcy or whatever, and Keeg was actually inside 104's body. And then when Larry got there, and thanks to Keeg, both of them got a view into each other's brain. They saw each other's experiences with the Bureau and how they were both treated with the Bureau. They decided to like, team up and come together and I guess take down Immortus and, champion the cause for people like them all over the place. And then Keeg finally went back to Larry, so now Keeg's home. Because they said that his whole thing was just trying to get the two of them together. Lord knows what Cliff's doing. Like, I have no idea what's going on with Cliff. Dorothy, she's still on her way to Cloverton. I said Rita, she old and she with Madame Rouge. And I guess Immortus is the person who was at the drawing board that we saw in the previous episode, the person that was like doing the sketching. So again, like different characters on the show, they're working for him, whereas like the Doctor was working for him, like 104 was working for him, and then like now the Rabbit's working for him. So this whole thing is trying to steal the immortality of the Doom Patrol. So now the Doom Patrol is being targeted. Victor's off chasing his long lost friendship, and apparently we've abandoned the zombie butt apocalypse because that's how the season started, where we were supposed to try to save the world from a zombie butt apocalypse. That lasted one episode, and now we're doing this Immortus thing. So I'm like, because like there's still a zombie butt like that's living with the Asian chick. So I'm just like, when are we gonna go back to that? But anyway, we'll see what happens as the episodes continue to unfold. There's a lot of stuff going on with Jane in the underground, because again, like the chick from the Sisterhood of Dada, she's gonna be back, and then her and Jane will probably have sweet lesbian sex at some point, or she'll give her that high that she so desperately craves. But we'll see where all this folds. And thank you for tuning in. So now, so I would assume that again next week's episode will probably be their mid-season finale, and then we'll take the break from Doom Patrol and go back into Titans. But share your questions and your thoughts, like what's going on with every character? Like, when do we come back to the zombie butts? What's going on with Immortus, like with Willoughby and the whole thing? What's going on with Jane, because her arc seems like it's going to be pretty important? Why are we still doing the cyborg thing with the boys? And we will continue to talk about it. Check me out on Twitter and or Instagram, always on YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. I got one more episode of Gotham Knights to post on my channel, then we'll conclude the Gotham Knights story. And Street Fighter V isn't dead, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming back to Street Fighter V with some more action for you as we roll down the countdown to Titans. So until next time, everybody, for a little Doom Patrol, for a little Youth Patrol, watch out because you might have to relive your childhood. And until next week, we're out this bitch.